They made America laugh every week in the 1970s. Loud, fearless, and unforgettable. But more than 50 years later, almost all of them are gone, broken, or painfully forgotten. This is the true cost of Sanford and Son, when the laughter fades and time takes everything back. Redd Foxx as Fred G. Sanford. Redd Foxx was born December 9, 1922 in St. Louis. He was 49 years old when Sanford and Son premiered in 1972, stepping into the role of Fred G. Sanford, the loud, abrasive junk dealer whose comedy felt raw, improvised, and dangerously real. Long before television fame, he built his reputation in nightclubs with boundary-pushing stand-up that influenced an entire generation of comedians. When Sanford and Son exploded in popularity, Foxx became one of the highest-paid black performers on television. Yet, success came with tension. He clashed repeatedly with producers over creative control and compensation, and despite the show's ratings dominance, Foxx felt underpaid compared to white sitcom stars of the era. The stress followed him even as he expanded into films like Cotton Comes to Harlem and later headlined his own variety projects. Behind the scenes, Foxx's personal life unraveled. He lived lavishly, spending faster than his income could support, while a series of failed marriages deepened his emotional instability. By the early 1980s, the situation collapsed publicly when the IRS seized his assets for unpaid taxes, including cars and property, forcing him into bankruptcy. Although he continued working, appearing in Harlem Nights in 1989 alongside Eddie Murphy, his health deteriorated under years of pressure, exhaustion, and unresolved financial fear. On October 11, 1991, Redd Foxx died at 68 years old after suffering a heart attack while rehearsing The Royal Family. The irony was cruel. A man famous for fake on-screen heart attacks died from a real one. Demond Wilson as Lamont Sanford. Born October 13, 1946, Demond Wilson was a native of Valdosta, Georgia. He was 25 years old when Sanford and Son premiered in 1972, cast as Lamont Sanford, the patient, responsible son, forced to parent his chaotic, manipulative father. As a teenager in New York City, he was stabbed multiple times during a street robbery and later served in the U.S. Army during the Vietnam era, experiences that hardened him long before fame arrived. When Sanford and Son became a ratings juggernaut, Wilson found himself trapped between gratitude and resentment. Yet behind the scenes, Wilson felt increasingly marginalized, clashing with producers and Redd Foxx over pay inequities and creative recognition. After Sanford and Son ended in 1977, he appeared in projects such as Baby, I'm Back, and guest roles on television, but the spark was gone. A severe car accident in the late 1970s further shifted his perspective, pushing him into a period of deep introspection, depression, and spiritual searching rather than career rebuilding. By the early 1980s, Demond Wilson left Hollywood, becoming an ordained minister and devoting his life to faith-based work. By 2026, at 79, he lives quietly, remembered as one of the rare sitcom icons who chose to walk away from fame on his own terms. LaWanda Page as Aunt Esther. Born October 19, 1920, LaWanda Page came from Cleveland, Ohio. She was already 51 years old when Sanford and Son debuted in 1972, cast as Aunt Esther, the sharp-tongued, Bible-swinging nemesis who verbally tortured Fred Sanford and became one of the most unforgettable characters in sitcom history. Before television, she was a raw, unapologetic stand-up comedian on the black nightclub circuit. Sanford and Son transformed her image completely, recasting her as a devout, moralistic churchwoman, an ironic contrast to her earlier career. While Aunt Esther made her a household name, it also typecast her brutally. After the show, Page appeared in projects like Friday Foster and later Friday, but Hollywood never allowed her the range she had already proven on stage. In her later years, Page's health declined steadily. She battled diabetes, a condition that gradually weakened her mobility and independence. By 2002, she was forced to perform in a wheelchair, refusing to fully step away from the stage even as her body failed her. That same year, she made one final appearance in the revived stage production Inquest of Sam Cooke, a poignant farewell that underscored her lifelong dedication to performance despite physical pain and exhaustion. LaWanda Page died on September 14, 2002, at 81 years old, from complications related to diabetes. Don Bexley as Bubba. Don Bexley, born March 10, 1910, spent most of his life in Los Angeles, California. He was already 62 years old when Sanford and Son premiered in 1972, appearing as Bubba, a small but memorable presence that fit naturally into the show's rough working-class world. Before Sanford and Son, he worked steadily but quietly, taking bit parts that rarely carried his name above the title. The sitcom brought him his widest recognition, yet it never translated into stability. Like many character actors of his generation, he moved from one brief appearance to another, including roles in films such as Uptown Saturday Night and guest spots across 1970s television, always visible but never secure. As younger performers replaced him and sitcom trends shifted, work slowed sharply, turning modest success into gradual professional isolation. In the mid-1990s, a serious hip injury stripped Bexley of independence and forced him to leave Los Angeles. In 1996, he relocated to Hampton, Virginia, moving in with a friend who became his caregiver. The move marked the quiet end of a career that had never truly found its footing, far removed from Hollywood sets and the industry that had already forgotten him. Don Bexley died on April 15, 1997, at 87 years old, at Centara Hampton Hospital, from heart failure and kidney failure. Lynn Hamilton as Donna Harris. Lynn Hamilton was born on April 25, 1930, in Yazoo City, Mississippi. She was 42 when Sanford and Son premiered in 1972, portraying Donna Harris, Fred Sanford's dignified, patient love interest who could stand her ground against his chaos. Trained in theater and deeply committed to craft, she moved steadily through television in the 1960s and early 1970s, earning respect but never true security. Sanford and Son gave her visibility, yet even then, her role was limited, written in and out as the show prioritized broad comedy over emotional continuity. Afterward, she appeared in respected projects like Roots, The Next Generations, and recurring roles on The Waltons. As television aged, roles for older black women narrowed, and offers thinned without explanation. Behind the scenes, Hamilton carried the weight of a long marriage that eventually ended in divorce, a personal fracture she kept largely private. Unlike louder collapses, her struggle unfolded silently, balancing dignity, financial uncertainty, and the slow realization that the industry had moved on. By the 1990s, she stepped away from regular acting, choosing privacy over humiliation, her absence from screens mistaken for choice, rather than necessity. Lynn Hamilton died peacefully at her home in Chicago on June 19, 2025, at 95 years old. Wittman Mayo as Grady Wilson. Born November 15, 1929, Wittman Mayo was raised in New York City. He was 42 years old when Sanford and Son premiered in 1972, stepping into the role of Grady Wilson, Fred Sanford's country cousin, lovable, slow-talking, and endlessly quotable. Before television, he worked as a counselor for juvenile delinquents and trained seriously as a stage actor. When Sanford and Son made Grady a fan favorite, the success felt like a breakthrough, but it quickly hardened into a cage. The character's folksy humor and apparent foolishness overshadowed Mayo's intelligence and range, and casting directors stopped seeing beyond the punchlines. Even as he delivered memorable work, the industry quietly reduced him to one note. Mayo took roles that proved his depth, appearing in Boys in the Hood, and later in The Heat of the Night, where gravity replaced comedy and authority replaced caricature. He also hosted the television program Liars and Legends, revealing a thoughtful, articulate presence far removed from Grady's image. Yet none of it fully erased the label. Media coverage, including CNN retrospectives, continued to define him by the very role that limited him, a contradiction that followed him for decades. Wittman Mayo died of a heart attack on May 22, 2001, at 71 years old, at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta. A final irony, passing in a hospital that shared his most famous name. Nathaniel Taylor as Rollo Lawson. Nathaniel Taylor, born March 31, 1938, was a St. Louis, Missouri. He was 34 years old when Sanford and Son premiered in 1972, portraying Rollo Lawson, Fred Sanford's sharp-tongued friend, whose confidence and comic timing made him a steady presence in the junkyard world. Trained at the Negro Ensemble Company, he approached acting as craft, not spectacle, and his work on Sanford and Son reflected that control, never loud, always precise. Roles clustered around familiar archetypes, and Taylor found himself circling the same comic territory while more varied opportunities slipped away. He continued working through the 1970s and 1980s with appearances in projects like What's Happening and stage productions, proving reliability without ever being rewarded with reinvention. As sitcom tastes shifted and casting doors closed without explanation, Taylor transitioned toward community-focused work, including youth programs and teaching. The absence of scandal did not protect him from erasure. It simply made the fade quieter. His later years were marked by health challenges and a gradual withdrawal from public life, far from the audiences who once recognized his face instantly. On February 23, 2019, Nathaniel Taylor was admitted to Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center after suffering a heart attack. He died there on February 27, 2019, from complications at 80 years old. Raymond Allen as Woody. Raymond Allen was born on March 5, 1929, in New York City. He was 43 when Sanford and Son premiered in 1972, playing Woody, a slick-talking, streetwise friend whose humor blended charm with quiet melancholy. Before Sanford and Son, he worked steadily in theater and television, earning respect as a dependable character actor rather than a headline name. The sitcom gave him national visibility, yet like many of his peers, that recognition came without insulation. He continued appearing in projects such as Good Times and later Starsky and Hutch, moving from set to set as television evolved around him. But as the 1970s faded, the industry's attention shifted. Sitcoms changed tone, networks chased youth, and Allen, still capable, still present, found fewer doors open to him. What followed was not scandal, but erosion. Roles became sporadic. Public memory narrowed him to a handful of appearances, while decades of consistent work slipped quietly out of focus. As age advanced, health concerns mounted, and Allen withdrew further from the spotlight, living privately in California. Raymond Allen died in August 2020 at 91 years old from respiratory illness in California. Gregory Sierra as Julio Fuentes. Born January 25, 1937, Gregory Sierra was a native of New York City. He was 35 years old when Sanford and Son aired in the early 1970s, appearing as Julio Fuentes, a recurring character whose presence added texture to the show's wider social world beyond the junkyard. Sierra's career reached its peak not through Sanford and Son, but with his breakout role as Sergeant Chano Amenguale on Barney Miller. The role made him instantly recognizable and positioned him as one of the most prominent Latino actors on American television at the time. Yet at the height of that success, Sierra made a decision few actors dared to make. Frustrated with what he believed were declining scripts and a growing reliance on ethnic stereotypes, he walked away from the role voluntarily, later stating that Chano was being reduced to a caricature rather than allowed to evolve as a fully realized character. The decision cost him momentum. In the years that followed, Sierra continued working, appearing in films like Papillon and later television series including Miami Vice and Hill Street Blues, but none restored the prominence he had sacrificed. His career became defined by a painful paradox, respected for integrity, yet sidelined for asserting it. As age and illness crept in, Sierra withdrew from public life, facing a long and private battle with serious health issues rather than professional decline alone. Gregory Sierra died on January 4, 2021, at 83 years old in Laguna Woods, California, after a prolonged struggle with stomach and liver cancer. Hal Williams as Officer Smitty Smith. Hal Williams was born on December 14, 1938, in Columbus, Ohio. He was 33 years old when Sanford and Son premiered in 1972. Cast as Officer Smitty Smith, the calm, observant police officer whose quiet authority contrasted with Fred Sanford's chaos. Trained in theater, he entered television in an era that offered limited space for black actors beyond narrow archetypes. Sanford and Son gave him visibility, but not leverage. He continued working steadily through the 1970s and 1980s, most notably as Lester Jenkins on 227, where his warmth and comedic timing finally earned him consistent screen time. Williams was repeatedly cast as the dependable, non-threatening figure, respected but rarely allowed complexity or narrative control. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Williams avoided scandal, addiction, or public collapse, but that absence of drama did not protect him from erasure. Roles became sporadic, guest appearances replaced recurring arcs, and the industry quietly stopped calling. He stepped back without farewell episodes or tribute specials, leaving audiences to assume he had simply chosen to disappear. As of 2026, Hal Williams is 87 years old, living a private, retired life away from the spotlight. Sanford and Son made millions laugh, but time told a harsher truth. Behind the jokes were careers boxed in, bodies worn down, and legends who aged in silence once the spotlight moved on. Follow along as we continue revealing what really happened to television's forgotten icons, then and now.